Welcome, everyone, to today's Explainer. I am absolutely thrilled to have you here. For the next few minutes, I want you to think of me as your resident social psychology professor, because we are about to dive into one of the most literally mind-bending phenomena in human behavior. We're going to look at how your brain actively and, well, sometimes pretty deceitfully constructs the social world you experience every single day. So grab your mental notepads because we are about to seriously challenge what you think you know about reality itself. Okay, let's just quickly map out our syllabus for today. We're going to cover 1. The 1951 stadium anomaly, 2. The cognitive machine, 3. The Wysiati principle, 4. Preconceptions and beliefs, 5. The self-fulfilling prophecy, and finally 6. Questioning your lens. All right, let's set the stage and jump right into section 1. The 1951 stadium anomaly, which is Hastorf and Cantrell's classic case study. Picture this. It's an autumn afternoon in 1951 at Palmer Stadium. We've got an intensely competitive, aggressively brutal football game between Princeton and Dartmouth. And it's so rough that several players end up with serious injuries. Now, after the dust settled, researchers sat students from both universities down and showed them the exact same physical video recording of the match to objectively identify rule violations. But think about the cognitive dissonance here for a second. How on earth could two groups of smart, capable students watch the exact same sequence of events, frame by frame, and yet experience two entirely different social realities? Well, get this. Here is the striking discrepancy in the data. The Princeton students reported that Dartmouth committed twice as many fouls as the Dartmouth students themselves saw. And no, this wasn't just a matter of bad eyesight or sitting at a weird angle. It was a pure matter of psychological framing. This classic experiment proves an absolutely foundational point. Human beings do not respond to reality as it objectively exists. We respond to reality as it's interpreted through our own unique cognitive systems. So you're probably wondering, what is actually causing this massive distortion? To figure that out, we have to look under the hood at the biology. That brings us to section 2, the cognitive machine and system 1 fast thinking, based on Daniel Kahneman's 2011 research. Kahneman pointed out that most of our everyday cognition is driven by this fast thinking system. It operates automatically and intuitively. Your brain isn't just sitting there passively receiving objective data like some boring security camera. Actually, scratch that. It's more like a really overzealous film editor, constantly taking fragmented pieces of information and splicing them together into a coherent, predictable narrative. And why does the brain go through all this effort? Because it absolutely craves what we call cognitive ease. Once your brain patches together a story that makes sense, you get this warm sense of psychological comfort. But here is the trap, and it's a big one. This cognitive ease is just a subjective feeling. It completely tricks us into believing our hasty, cobbled-together interpretation is the undisputed truth. Basically, we feel right, even when we are objectively totally wrong. This craving for cognitive ease flows perfectly into section 3, the YSIAT principle, or what you see is all there is. YCAT, what you see is all there is. It's kind of funny, actually. Unlike our slow-thinking system, which acts like a careful, methodical scientist searching for missing data, our fast-thinking machine is, well, it's pretty lazy. It relies almost exclusively on the information immediately in front of it. It rarely ever stops to look for the missing pieces of the puzzle. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is that this is the one crucial question our brains almost never bother asking when we're on autopilot. What additional information do I need before reaching a conclusion? We just take the tiny microscopic sliver of reality we happen to see, and we confidently treat it as the whole universe. The consequence of this is huge. To preserve its processing speed and keep that sense of stability, your brain willingly trades accuracy for simplicity. It's a real shortcut. And this leads to massive cognitive overconfidence. It's exactly why you can meet someone for like 5 seconds, notice one fleeting behavior, and suddenly feel 100% confident making a sweeping judgment about their entire moral character. Your brain just traded the complex truth for a simple, easy-to-digest summary. Now that we know how little information our brain actually collects, we need to look at the filters that process it all. Let's move to section 4, Preconceptions and Beliefs, featuring the brilliant 1977 study by Rothbart and Burrell. And this brilliantly illustrates the point. In this experiment, participants were shown the exact same photograph of a man's face. Same face, folks, but there was a twist. One group was told the man was a Nazi war criminal. The other group was told he was a brave underground resistance hero. The people who thought he was a Nazi saw literal cruelty and coldness in his eyes. The ones who thought he was a hero saw courage and kindness. It's wild. It shows how contextual labels in our own pre-existing beliefs literally alter our human perception of reality.
Which leads us to the concept of belief perseverance. Your mind is basically a cognitive fortress. Perception doesn't just casually receive reality, it actively molds it. And incredibly, once you form a belief, it tends to persist even if the original evidence is completely undeniably debunked. The brain just prioritizes a coherent psychological narrative over factual accuracy. In social psychology, the old saying seeing is believing is actually completely backwards. The reality is believing is seeing. So far, we've talked about what happens inside our heads. But these cognitive structures don't just stay trapped in our minds. They leak out and physically shape the social world around us. Let's explore Section 5, the self-fulfilling prophecy and behavioral confirmation. The famous sociologist Robert Merton theorized this concept, and it's a real game changer. An initially completely false belief can actually make itself true if it makes you behave in a way that brings it into reality. In psychology, the engine that drives this phenomenon is called behavioral confirmation. Let me walk you through exactly how this closed feedback loop works. Step 1. You have an expectation or bias about someone. Step 2. Because of that bias, you interact with them in a specific, aligned way. Step 3. That person naturally reacts to how you are treating them. Step 4. Their reaction unintentionally confirms your original belief. You literally created the reality you expected to see. Let's look at a wild example. Mark Snyder's 1977 experiment. Men were set up on a phone call with a woman. Some men were falsely told that the woman on the line was highly attractive. Because they believed this, the men naturally acted warmer, friendlier, and more engaged on the phone. And guess what happened? The woman on the other end, who had absolutely no idea about the label, responded to their warmth by acting more charming and confident. The guy's expectations literally manufactured her behavior. Now, think about this in the context of an argument. So the crucial point is, if you believe someone has hostile intentions towards you, your fast-thinking brain makes you act defensively and coldly toward them right off the bat. And how do people respond when you treat them coldly? With genuine tension and hostility. Many of the interpersonal conflicts we experience don't emerge from objective facts at all. They emerge from the defensive behaviors that our own biased interpretations trigger. We've seen how this distortion works on the football field, in the lab, and in our everyday interactions. Now let's zoom out to the broader philosophical implications with Section 6, Questioning Your Lens, our Socratic conclusion. Your brain is not a neutral mirror. We aren't just passive observers sitting in the audience. We are simultaneous architects of reality, continuously constructing the social world through our biases and interactions. What is truly thought-provoking here isn't just that we distort reality, it's that we go through our entire lives rarely ever recognizing ourselves doing it. So what's the fix? Complete 100% objectivity? Yeah, that's basically impossible for us humans. Instead, true psychological maturity is about learning to step back and question the very lens through which you perceive reality. It's about recognizing that your brain is a storyteller, not a documentary filmmaker. So I'm going to leave you with this final challenge today. If what you see isn't the entirety of the truth, if your expectations are actively building your reality, are you ready to question your own lens? Next time you feel absolutely undeniably certain about someone's motives, take a breath, engage that slow-thinking brain, and ask yourself what information you might be missing. Thanks for hanging out with me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep questioning, and I'll catch you next time.